Hi, my name is Kathy Skipper and I'm a menopause midwife. Welcome to my channel, The Alchemy of Menopause. In this video, I'm going to give you a fun exercise, very simple, that is on the theme of being aware and setting out boundaries during perimenopause and menopause. So, first of all, I want to give you a few reasons why it's important to have good boundaries during this period in your life. And then I'll give you the exercise, which is very simple. So, one way of looking at what you need to have boundaries around is to say, what do I need to say no to? What deep down in myself do I know I need to say no to? Or another way is if you think there's something going on in a relationship or in a situation where a good boundary could help you, tune into that situation or that relationship and ask yourself, do you feel that your energy is being drained in this situation? And if it is, then that's a sign that you need to put up a better boundary. Okay, so at perimenopause, we definitely are going into a whole period that could last 2 to 10 years that is going to be full of changes and transformations within ourselves. And that's the point of it. So there's nothing wrong with you. It is completely normal, but it does demand a certain a certain state of being and poise so that you can do the inner work. It's like the caterpillar. If he didn't have the chrysalis, he would turn to mush and he would just disintegrate. He needs the he needs the chrysalis to create the vessel for him to go through, or she to go through, this transformational period in becoming a butterfly. And it's really the same with us. So, number one, boundaries are here to help us manage stress and overwhelm that can very quickly lead to burnout during perimenopause. And this is because if you have, for example, a heavy workload at work and you get home and you have a lot of demands from your family and you are going through perimenopause, so there's at perimenopause, there's this the inner demand for self-reflection, a demand for self-care, a demand to see why you're not loving yourself enough, a demand to listen to these new messages and parts of yourself that are being triggered by your hormones and starting to arise. You can't do it all. So, in order not to become overstressed, overwhelmed, and then ultimately burnt out during menopause, it is extremely important to be aware of where in your life you need to put boundaries. And this leads me on to the second point, which is about prioritizing self care, maintaining a sense of well being during menopause, which is harder than when we're younger. That's harder than times in our life when we're just sort of breezing through because a lot is changing. We are changing in our physical bodies, in our emotional selves, our minds and beliefs are even changing, and we're changing spiritually. So, in order for those changes to, or in order, let me say, for us to be in relationship and in awareness of those changes in a way that is the most positive, in a way that we can really embrace them and see where they're leading us with, you know, apprehension, but also with excitement. I'm changing. I'm going to become the sovereign, stronger woman I've always known is inside me. We need self care. We need to prioritize time alone. We need to prioritize honoring what we're feeling. I'm feeling extremely tired. I've got a lot of emotions coming up. Let me go and have a bath, put a candle on, put some essential oils into some magnesium salts, and really enjoy myself. But in order to do that, I have to close the door, let my family know that I'm not available, no knocking on the door, where's this, what's that, what's for tea, creating a boundary to promote and satisfy my own needs for self care and well being. Number three, as I said, we are going through a huge period of physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual change. So, in order for that to happen in the best possible way, we need to protect ourselves physically, giving ourselves enough time, rest, um, exercise, good diet, all those things need good boundaries. If I'm out and about all the time and I don't have time to rest, then something like stress is going to come in because my need for rest is more during perimenopause. Or if I'm busy all the time and I'm not looking at my diet, that will play a role. And this goes on beyond the physical body. Our emotions are being triggered at menopause by our hormones, not because these are emotions that the hormones created, as I've said in my other videos, but these are emotions that were already there, but we'd buried, and the hormones are triggering them to come up to be integrated. In order to do that, what is this deep thing that I've hidden? What are my truest desires that I've never allowed myself to honor, etc., etc.? These emotions, these feelings, these desires, these whatever they are, traumas, sadnesses, griefs, fears, need to be dealt with at menopause. They're coming up for a reason. The hormones aren't triggering these just to laugh at us and say, ha ha, look what we can do. They're triggering them for us to grow and for these deeply buried things to come up and become our wisdom. But in order to do that, we need to protect ourselves physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And in order to protect ourselves, we need to have very healthy boundaries, know what we need, know what's going to give us the best results for this inner work, and put the boundaries into place. Which makes me think about, monitoring our social engagements. It depends who you are. I'm someone who needs a lot of alone time anyway, and always have. And I live up a mountain at 9,000 feet. So I'm not going to be easily swayed to go out, to go and see a show, to go to the museum, to go for coffee. That doesn't happen in my life. And because I've created that boundary, that's what I need. And I'm not saying you all need to be a hermit like me, but monitoring social engagements during perimenopause and menopause is extremely important and helpful, especially if you're someone who has a tendency to say yes to everyone and has a full diary, because you will never, ever be able to fully explore the potential of this period in your life and the potential for healing and growth if you're always out and about. You're never there. No time for yourself, no time for inner reflection, no time for meeting these deeper buried parts of yourself because you're always busy, always there for everyone else. Family demands. So when women get to perimenopause and menopause, they will feel this. A lot of women say, I feel more angry and irritated and frustrated with my husband or my kids or this situation than I've ever felt before. Is it my hormones? It must be my hormones. Give me something to stop them, then I can go back to normal. That's not the way. Again, the hormones are triggering a need for more alone time, a need for self-care, a need for listening to one's own needs. And so these old ways of always being there for the family, always picking up the pieces, always finding the thing that no one can find, always making the food, always filling the fridge, of course you're going to get frustrated about them if you're still doing them, because this isn't the time in your life where that's going to fulfill your needs emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically. So you need to put boundaries around the family, and they're not going to like it at first. Of course they're not. They're going to wonder what's happening. They're going to find it very off-putting. And it's your job to earth yourself, ground yourself, and really put those boundaries clearly, nicely, but knowing you believe them, into place. This is what I need. This is where I'm going to be here for you. And this is when I'm not going to be here because I'm doing something else more important, which is to do with my own journey. So family demands are worth looking at to see in what way do you need better boundaries. Which leads me on to relationship with our partners, if you have one. So, our partners might be used to us always being there for them in a certain way, even sexually. Many women feel, I owe it to my partner. I might not be feeling that sexy, but, I owe it to my partner to turn up in that way intimately. And at perimenopause, we definitely often don't want to. And it's not because there's something sclerotic and our fannies have gone all dry and we can't have sex. That's rubbish. A good, nice, very aromatic lubricant will do the job. It's not that. It's that at this time in our life, we're called towards being more honest with ourselves. Really, when we are not dishonest with ourselves during perimenopause, our psyches let us know a lot more. It's a lot harder to slip into the old ways, slip into the old survival strategies, or if we have been living in them, it's much easier for us to see that they don't suit us anymore. And so the sexual aspect with your partner might be just that you're not willing to do, I've done a video on this actually in my channel, but not willing to turn up and just service someone. You'll only turn up if it's a real intimate moment. And this is something that I've been learning about, the true function of desire. You know, desire doesn't say, well, this is a creative desire, this is a physical desire, I want to go for a walk, this is a desire about writing a book, and this is an erotic desire about having time with my partner. Desire is just desire in the psyche, and it's all erotic in a sense, because it's an energy that wants us to connect and communicate with something, be it a project, be it our partner, be it whatever it is, be it nature. And so if we're not listening to our own desires as women, of course we're going to run out of steam when it comes to having erotic desires. Right? That's another video, and I will do a video on that. But having boundaries and saying to your partner, at the moment I'm not feeling that I can enter into this intimate relationship in the way that it's been. I'm willing to work on it in a new way. When I'm ready, when you're ready, talk about it, tune into what our needs are, but I need boundaries around this as I do this very important healing work of perimenopause. And lastly, inner boundaries. Excuse me, my mouth's dry. Inner boundaries. So it's not just that we need boundaries with other people, but we need to see what boundaries we need to put with ourselves. So, for example, if I don't make boundaries with myself about how many hours a day I will give to my work and then allow myself to relax, have time off, go for a walk, spend time with my dogs, I would work all the time, because it's some kind of old complex, probably partly put into me as a child through the way my father was, this sense of not having any worth if I'm not working. So I have to really say, okay, I can't, even if it's a project I enjoy, I can't just go and do it all the time. I have to have a boundary with myself. This is reasonable, 6 hours work a day, and then I stop. That's an inner boundary. It's a boundary with myself. Then there are emotional boundaries with myself. Listening to my own desires. You know, I was very codependent, so I spent a lot of time not allowing myself to have any desires or choices. So I started to see them and realize how they turn up. So now one of my boundaries is putting a boundary to not allowing myself to listen to my desires. So that boundary is keeping me safe, so I can listen to those childlike, deep, soulful desires. So inner boundaries are very important as well. Okay, so a quick exercise, which I thought you might enjoy, some of my students have done this, is that I like to call it a shield. So you could draw on a piece of paper, and you can do this in collage, you can do this in art, you can just do this with a pen and paper. You can do this in any form you like, and you can put as much of yourself into it as you like. But it can be very easy. If you just do a circle and have a pen, it'll take you 5 minutes. But it's very helpful to notice in your life what needs to be in your inner yes area and what needs to have a boundary around it that would be no, not at the moment, or this is a boundary and I decide when I need it in my life. So you do what I call a shield. It can be a circle, and in the center of the shield, in whatever way feels right for you, in whatever creative form or just with a pen, you write all the things that you feel are important to you, that you want in the inner sanctum with you, in that space of healing, in that chrysalis. Let's say it's inside the chrysalis. You are the caterpillar in this huge transformation, and there are certain things you need for that transformation to be the best possible growth period in your life that it could be. So whatever that might be, time for yourself, um, nice walks in nature with your dogs, um, time to journal every day, time to read the oracle cards, time for meditation, um, time to have fun with girlfriends, whatever it is. I'm just thinking of things. These go in the inner circle. Time to honor and listen to what your real desires are and then act on them. And then on the outside of the shield or the circle, you put the things that you need to put boundaries around. So let me see what I've done this exercise. So let me just see what I put. Hang on, 2 seconds. Here it is. So on the outside, I put money worries. I'm going to put a boundary up to that. It's not going to help me make more money to have worries about it. I can work on my money blocks in my journal, but that would be reflecting. It wouldn't be worrying. So money worries is in my outer circle. I've put projecting anger onto my husband. So when I'm feeling angry, I have a tendency to project it onto my husband. That's not okay. I have to put a boundary with that because it only gets us into an argument. It doesn't help me or him. So that's one of the ones I've put there. Let's see. Pushing my work hours more and more. I've just explained that one. Worrying about outcomes when I should be really just enjoying the journey. Worrying about one of my children who had difficulties when he was younger and still worrying that they might come back. Fear that my youngest son, who's going on his first sort of adult life journey, will not have what he needs. So these are really boundaries I have to put with these aspects of relationships with my children and my husband that aren't helping me. Inside, I've put things like listening to my body, listening to my soul, time to write, having time to make plant medicine, reading time, listening to my desires, traveling to see family who live abroad, honoring myself that, enjoying the fun times with my grandchildren. So whatever it is, that's just a few examples, but really sitting and thinking about the boundaries we need in our life in order to have a better quality of life during this perimenopausal period is very important. And lastly, I think I'd say, notice how you feel when you're doing it. So in class, one of my students, when she started doing it, you could see emotion was coming up and she felt frozen. So in a way, that showed us that somewhere she had learned that she didn't have the right to put down boundaries. She didn't have the right to put in the center of the shield or the circle the things that were important to her, that she needed to make other boundaries around so that she could have those things in her life. So notice how you feel when you're doing this exercise. And if anything comes up, let's see what that might mean. And so if you want to share anything about this exercise, please do in the comments below. And if you like this channel, please subscribe. That really helps me. And lots of love. Happy boundary making.